I want to run through setting up your Laravel app to send automatic notifications from your system to a specific channel in Slack. There are a lot of events that take place from within your system that other people need to know about. For example, if you create an invoice, maybe someone in accounting needs to know, or if you send out a contract, maybe another team member needs to know. You can even place these notifications from within scheduled commands. For example, every morning our system checks to see if anybody is out that day, and if so, a notification goes out. The first thing I did was make a model with a controller called your company using the command phpartisan make model your company. Since we are sending notifications to Slack, you need to run the command composer require Laravel Slack notification channel, and this will install the Slack notification package. Then we need to make the notification files by running these two commands: phpartisan make notification invoice paid and phpartisan make notification inspire me. We're sending the invoice paid notification from the controller and the inspire me notification from the console. So the first place we'll start out is the web.php file, and take a look at the routes. We have a get to display the form, and we have a post to store the data. We won't be storing any data, but we'll use this method to drop in the Slack notification. So here's the view where the form is. It's extremely simple. It's one input field, and this will go to the store form route, which will then kick us over to that store method in the your company controller. At the top, I brought in the notification facade and the invoice paid file that we created earlier. Then in our method, we will get our Slack credentials from our config file, which we will look at in a minute. Then we will pass in invoice paid to the notify function. So we store the webhook we get from Slack in our env file, but we access that variable, that env variable, from our config folder. So in your config folder, create a file called notifications.php, and we have two env file variables, one for invoice paid and one for inspire me. And if we look at the env file, you'll see the webhooks, and now we'll go over to Slack and I'll show you where these came from. So go to slack.com and sign in and select your workspace or create a new one. I'll sign into my example app workspace, and here's where I created the channel called paid invoice. So if I go into my Slack workspace, you can see the paid invoice channel. You need to create the channel you want before you create the webhook. When that's done, I'll go to api.slack.com, and here you can create a new app, but I'll go into the one I made for this video, which is example app, and from this page, go to incoming webhooks. Turn on the active incoming webhooks at the top, scroll down to add new webhook to workspace, and you can see the two I already made. But when you create a new one, you click add new webhook to workspace, select the channel you want it to go to, and you're done. You can see the two I created. We have the webhook URL, which is what we dump into the env file, and the channel we want it to go to. Now we can go over to the invoice paid notification file we generated at the beginning, and this is where the actual Slack message we want to send is created. So when we initially generated this file, it was created for email. Therefore, you just have to switch the word mail to Slack, and you'll be good. So I switched from mail message to Slack message, switched this to Slack, to Slack instead of to mail, and then Slack message instead of mail message. So now we can take a look at the form and submit anything just to trigger the method, which will fire off the notification. So I'll go to the form I created, and we'll just type in any information, click submit. And we get the die dump success message. Then if we go over to Slack, and we can check and see if the message popped up in the paid invoice channel. So over to our Slack, and you can see example app invoice paid. Now let's take a look at the console command Slack notification. So if I go over to the console.php file, we can see an artisan command called inspire. And just like in the controller at the top, we need to bring in the notification facade and the inspire me notification file we created at the beginning of the video. Then in the method, it looks just like the one in the controller. We get our credentials from the config notifications file. Then in the notify function, we pass in inspire me. And now the actual inspirational message we will post to Slack is in the inspire me class. So if we go into the inspire me class, just like in our other notifications, we have to switch all these names from mail to Slack. And then in the actual content, we'll pass in the inspiring quote, which comes out of the box with Laravel. So when we run the command phpartisan inspire, an inspiring message will be sent to the general Slack channel. Okay, so now we can fire off this PHP Artisan Inspire command and see if it goes through. And if we go over to Slack, we see the inspirational message. People find pleasure in different ways. I find it in keeping my mind clear. Marcus Aurelius, please like and subscribe. Sounds good to me. Now, of course, you would want to create a kernel command to make this useful to fire off, say, every morning at 7 a.m. And Laravel and Slack work really well together. Honestly, it's kind of easy to get carried away and just throw in notifications everywhere in your system, but it's really up to what the users need to see.